is crazy. You guys been doing this for a while now.
Yeah. Over 25 weeks.
Bro, I love it because I can always, like, while I'm working, I can listen to it.
We appreciate it.
Dude, I appreciate that because it's like a lot of it is knowledge that needs to be shared, you know? Talked about. Yo, yo.
What's going on, everybody?
Hello, Gov.
Our host is here. Zombie, we lost your audio, my friend. But it sounds like the rest of us are coming through loud and clear, so that's a good thing.
Yes, indeedy. Check 1, 2. Y'all hear me?
Oh yeah, we got you coming through on the stream here. So
See,
yeah.
of course, it's always me that has the technical difficulties.
there you are. There you are.
I was over here talking to myself, doing the usual kickoff, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yep.
All
Wait a
right.
tick now.
Well, you folks are watching. You all know who we are. I don't need any introduction, but I'll give one anyway. I am your patient zero, Zombie JLT1.
I am Richard Ryan.
And I'm Chris from Big Family Gaming.
And
We have a special guest here today.
That's right. Go for it, BFG. Kick it off. Introduce
Yeah, and so this guy is an awesome member of the community and supporter of our little stew that we have going on here. So welcome to Hector the Game Collector. Hector, say what's up to the audience.
You too. What it do? It's me, Hector, the Game Collector. What's up, guys? Glad to be here.
AKA Bearded Kirby.
Yes.
So as you folks know, that we will be talking about modding consoles, video games. What are the pros and cons of modifying today's systems? Are there any pro and con to them? Are you a purist out there? Do you leave your systems and games unscathed and leave them in their original form? That's what we're going to be discussing tonight. So I can't wait to get into this subject because I'm kind of in between, honestly. I feel that in most cases, if we can leave a system alone, let it be. But if we need to swap parts out to fix it and bring it back to its original beauty, I say go for it. But I'm not a modder, I'm not a hacker, I don't know shit about any of this. So that's why we're going to let our awesome guest kind of fill us in on what exactly is modding. You want to give a brief description as to what that is exactly? Did we
That's you,
lose?
Hector. Well, maybe
Oh, sorry,
there you
guys.
There we are.
are.
So, as somebody who's known to modify systems and whatnot, how would you explain modding to somebody who knows nothing about that?
Oh gosh, I would explain it to them like as if it was like an upgrade.
Upgrade in its simplest form, or upgrade as in you have to know what you're doing, or else you're gonna mess your
Well,
shit
it depends, really. Like a system like the Wii, like there's a whole process of soft modding it without needing to solder anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I remember back in 2010, my first mod on the Wii was a chip that
Okay.
allowed me to insert burned games, essentially.
And there really is. There's such a wide range of modding. Um, and so I would split it out into two camps: the soft mod and the hard mod. Software being the key word
You
for
want it
soft mod.
hard or do you want it soft?
Exactly. But hey, sometimes soft is good in this
Yeah,
instance here, and
absolutely.
I would say if anybody is even curious about modding, and like Hector was saying, the Wii is the perfect console to get your feet wet with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's an old tutorial I saw. It was how to mod your Wii in less than 5 minutes, and you really can. It's something I would say is if you can use a computer and plug in an SD card and transfer files over, that's all you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's very straightforward. Um, now, and I don't know what the next slide is here, Zombie, but some people are like, "What? Why would I want to mod the console? What's the advantages?" Well, it depends on the console, but generally speaking, I'm gonna go ahead and just throw it out there. It's piracy. It's to play games without buying them. I mean, no, I mean, but it is, and
Yeah.
that's a whole other conversation in and of itself. But it also, we're all gamers here, and there's so many games that are just so expensive right now that some people will never get a chance to play.
Right.
And
Yeah.
by modding the system, you can access those games and experience them. Um, and most of the time, it's different than emulation in the way that you're playing the game on the original hardware.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, let me
go
add
ahead.
one thing. So I just wanted my little piece of why it's good to have a modded system right now in 2022. Because external storage devices are more affordable than ever. You can easily get a 2 terabyte external hard drive to hook up via a Wii via USB and get one for anywhere from like 60 to $100 max is the most you'd have to spend. And why is that important? Because disc-based games take up a lot of space. So
This
this
is
was
true.
not always something that was affordable, or it was not always something that you could get, essentially the whole Wii library or the whole GameCube library and fit it all on a device. Now you can in 2022, that external storage options are a lot more affordable.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
that's absolutely right.
so right off the bat, you guys are saying probably the best reason, or maybe the easiest reason to convince either someone else or yourself to mod is because of price and accessibility.
Yes.
Correct, because
Yeah.
as far as bang for your buck, games you're gonna get to play, you can't beat it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now the downside is it really just depends on the console you're talking about. I would venture to say, and I honestly I haven't looked at the PS5 or but almost every modern quote unquote, and we'll start with the Wii with that console. Actually, let's go back. The original Xbox was the very first console that really took the mod scene by storm.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one everybody that was savvy enough and determined enough could mod and do it themselves.
So what made the
Um,
360?
Not the 360, the original
Oh, the original
Xbox.
Xbox, yeah.
The original Xbox, and the reason was because it was basically a computer,
Mm-hmm.
and so people tore it apart, upgraded the hard drives, um, added more space. They were able to. I mean, this is where Xbox Media Center shined at the time because you were able to upload videos and watch movies and music and all this sort of stuff, which eventually evolved into Kodi, which we see now on everybody's Raspberry Pi that they use. It's very, very popular. But that's where it's got its origins in, was in the Xbox modding scene.
So,
So the original Xbox is where it started, you know, widely.
mm-hmm.
The problem is nowadays, and the advancements in technology, which I love, is you have a lot more hard mod options. Um, I mean, we can get to that here in a little bit, but specifically thinking about the Dreamcast with the GDMU, which stands for well, they call it the GD drive emulator. And so you can swap out your laser inside your Dreamcast and pop in one of those things with an SD card loaded with the entire Dreamcast library.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're playing again the original games, or you're playing the games on original console.
Yeah.
No emulation. That's the key here.
Right.
It's so satisfying too, because I grew up without a Dreamcast,
Mm-hmm.
so I came late in the game, and by the time I came in, which was 2019, the game prices were increasing, and investing in the GDMU saved me a whole lot of money, and I was able to play each game with no problems,
Mm-hmm.
straight from an SD card. And the install is so convenient that even our pal Quesadilla Padilla was able to do it himself.
Right.
It's a great mod.
Hey, there it is. There it is. Good job, Zombie.
Oh no, Ryan gave me the picture, so kudos to him. I just threw it up there.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
So again, I think I would encourage anybody that's thinking about it to get their feet wet on a Wii. I would imagine most of us here would have a Wii. If not, there's so many of them. You can, well, until the pandemic hit, they were pretty cheap. Wii prices kind of skyrocketed there for a bit. I think they've come back down a little bit. I don't think it's quite as crazy as it once was, but that's where I would recommend anybody start, because it's so easy. And then the immediate benefit, besides the playing your Wii games, which actually that's slightly harder to do than actually installing emulators. So if you're okay with emulating, the Wii is a great little emulation machine where NES, Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx, Sega CD, Super Nintendo, they all run really well on a Wii.
People's natural next question would be, but where do I find these games? And they even have them on archive.org. So
I
archive.org, they post the full libraries of these
Hey,
games.
that's a secret. Come
yeah,
on now.
you weren't supposed to reveal
He lost his hacker card.
that.
uh,
So let
Modelo podcast is right with that.
uh-huh. So let me ask a question here. So modding became popularized with the Xbox. But
Yes.
wouldn't you say that modifying consoles goes all the way back to PCs even? You know, it's not like those of you who had PCs in the early days, you know, kept them as is. I would assume you'd swap out parts for better capability and whatnot. So
Yeah.
what's kind of the difference between what modding is today versus, you know, upgrading your PC, or is it the same?
Well, look,
It's
couldn't you see one of the first mods is clipping that thing on the Super Nintendo for to play a Super Famicom?
ooh, that's a
Right.
great point. That's a
Yeah,
great point.
exactly.
That's a you're absolutely right. That would be considered a mod because you're modifying the console from stock.
Mhm.
To answer your question, Zombie, I think the difference being is that a PC is more of an open sort of architecture, and meaning that the parts were designed to be upgraded and swapped out. One of my earliest memories I have is I had a 486 PC back in the 90s, and I pulled out the processor and installed a Pentium in
Mhm.
it. And actually, Intel made special Pentium processors. They were known as Pentium overdrives for people that couldn't afford. That's me, a kid in the 90s. Uh, a brand new PC, but you wanted to play those new games that required these Pentium processors. So Intel themselves came out with a solution for that. They weren't great, but it worked.
Mhm.
Um, and so the difference being is like with an Xbox, it's a closed. They never intended anybody to open those things, right? The idea was, you know, shut up and play your console.
Right.
Um, stick the game in, play it, and move on to the next one. But um, once it got broken out and people saw the potential there, it's been nonstop ever since.
I mean, I'm thinking about even further where, and I highlighted Dizzy's comment. He mentions playing Game Boy on Super Nintendo using the Super Game Boy. Um, Going back even further, looking at using Game Genie or
Yeah. Or how
um,
how about people opening up the NES cart to pull out the
yes,
Famicom converter
mm-hmm,
and play Famicom games on your NES? Absolutely, I consider all these mods.
yeah,
And uh, I think as long as people have been paying for games, people have been finding ways to play them for free or otherwise. I mean, the whole Commodore 64. If we want to keep going back, was known for piracy. Like there was no copy protection on the
oh
games.
yeah,
People, I don't think I know anybody that
how
had
about black
legit.
cable boxes?
I
mm-hmm,
don't think anybody had legit Commodore games.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
they were always copied.
maybe Idris Elba would argue that because he actually admitted to having Commodore 64 and never pirating software, but who knows? He could be stretching the truth there a
I'll
little bit.
I'll, I'll take him for his word because there are people who pride themselves on their collection, who pride
Mhm.
themselves on the box art, who pride themselves on those labels, which I totally get,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not hating on them for it. It's just not everybody has the resources to build such a collection, and we want to play those games.
Mhm.
Um,
That's absolutely correct. Rage quits. The Genesis does have Master System converter, an actual licensed one too. By the way, um, a big collector's item, if you can find one for sure. Plus, the Game Gear as well had a bunch of unlicensed Master System converters you could get to.
yeah, those were cool. That you could play the Master System games on the Game Gear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do have one of those power base converters for
Yep.
my Genesis, and that's how I play my Master System games.
See, I got both. I have the converter and I got my original Master
I
System. There's no
I
way in
no
hell I'm getting rid of that.
no, I have Master Systems too, but out of convenience sake, so I don't have to
Right,
swap cables around or whatever. I just pop the converter in and
right.
go.
So let me ask you guys this: those of you who are listening, and those of you live with me on the show right now, is there a difference between modding and hacking? Is there a difference, or is it just based on what we call it?
No, I
I feel like
think there
it's
is a difference. What are you gonna say, Hector?
well, I feel like modding is when you alter the hardware a bit,
Here we go.
and like hacking is like on the software side.
Yeah, it's true.
It I think it comes down to what your goal is.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for I think for anybody that wants to technically hack, you would need a mod first. So let me clarify. So um, if you want, if there was some game that you wanted to make changes to, and I'm talking more modern games, like let's say you wanted to give yourselves more money in GTA,
Mm-hmm.
you would need to have a modded console to then hack the software, hack the game to make those changes. Um, so I think that's where the difference is. Hacking would probably apply more to the games themselves than the consoles. I would say almost always if a console is getting modded, not hacked. Um, that would be my take on it. Older gamer comes up with a good point here. You could just be doing a shell swap, and you are technically modding your console. That's right.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
And see,
so
that's the earliest form of modding that I recall is doing a shell swap or maybe some kind of custom work like this where you just kind of want to give your console an added oomph, make it look more creative or reflect what type of games or franchises you're into. That's what I thought of first when I heard that term being thrown around.
yeah,
Like just repainting the shell or doing something, slightly different. And then I started coming across mods that were like too insane to believe. Like I saw an NES with a built-in screen at the top, so you would pop your card in, and then it powers up the system, and then the screen in the center at the top of the console, and you'd be able to just straight up play looking at the top of your NES. So is as when you think about modding a system, those of you who have done it or have experience in it, do you come across things like that where it's just like either completely unnecessary or just too ridiculous to believe that somebody did that with their console?
I don't think I would never not believe it. I do think it's ridiculous, but ridiculously awesome. Like
I agree.
I don't have the skills to turn an NES into what you're showing here, which looks like it's actually an arcade NES based on what it says there.
It looks like out of a hospital, like running somebody's heart, blood pressure.
Like, okay, so when you're thinking of modding a console, what what's the thought process going into that? Like, do you have a set game plan in mind, or do you just kind of roll with it? You start with one small modification and then you see what else you can do, or like how do you go about deciding what you're gonna mod and how?
Well, check this out. Like, take the Wii. Some people do a simple mod where they just want to install the games off the disc that they own. Maybe they don't even want to. It's just to save them time boot up. So they want to just pull the games right off their disc and be able to play them instead of be swapping discs, while they're streaming. So it could be something as simple as that, or you could get it extensive as getting a 2 terabyte external and having the whole library of the Wii and GameCube all together, like basically Hector has when we play that video.
Mm-hmm.
I and I think we go into it with the goal in mind. It's, hey, oh, I want to load my Wii up with NES games. Okay, so then you go through the process. There's so many great tutorials out there on how to do it, especially for the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, the and when we could talk about it later, but the 3DS, one of the goals I wanted to do when I modded my 3DS was I wanted to stream from it, and you would either need to do a very very expensive hardware mod to the 3DS, send it out and get an HDMI port installed into the 3DS, which, by the way, the people who used to do that don't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that option was kind of down. And then the other option is you can do the soft mod, and somebody wrote an app for the 3DS that you can stream your game to your computer. And from there, I picked up the screen grab of the game I was streaming to the computer and streamed it on YouTube.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, let's take a look at that live stream for a moment, because I remember I was there a few times trying to get an idea of how this process actually works. So yeah, let me bring up Ye Old Television.
And by the way, so little disclaimer: anybody wanting to mod their 3DS, do not follow this video that I made 2 years ago. The people are constantly fixing it and improving it, and it's even easier now than it was when I did this live stream. And the whole point of the live stream, there was 2 points. One was to show how easy it is following step-by-step instructions to mod your 3DS, and I wanted to show I could do it on stream live.
Mm-hmm.
The second goal of the live stream was to help anybody that was going along with me that ran into any issues. I could help answer their questions. And I think Mazen Power, during the stream, he successfully modded his 3DS with me. It was awesome.
I like sharing knowledge.
All right.
Unfortunately, when I was doing mine with you live, I bricked it.
You did not. So, no. Now, what's funny about that is, my son, when he was younger and he got a 3DS, he was very early into the mod scene on the 3DS. And I remember him coming up to me one day. He's like, "Dad," he's like, "I'm about to do it." He's like, "I'm about to mod my 3DS." He's like, "I don't know if it's gonna work. I don't know if I'm gonna brick it." And he was just so, a little nervous about it. And then he did it and it worked, and he didn't brick his console, and he was so excited, right? And it was just amazing to see that. Because at the time I didn't know anything about it. I did not know anything about 3DS's, or what you could do or what was involved. It was way more involved back then. Nowadays, like I said, you could get it done. If it's your first time, probably about an hour, maybe less.
So we
But
got the
with the
chat
mod-
room in here with some ideas.
Yeah, let me check out this chat too. But with the modded 3DS, you can again load any games you want from the 3DS. You can load any Nintendo DS games you want. You can load Super Nintendo, Sega, NES, Game Boy Advance. It's just I don't see any downside,
Mm-hmm.
really.
Hector, what are your thoughts? Any downside to modding? Anything that you've experienced or come across that might might make people think twice about doing this?
No, not at all. I think it's awesome. I think it provides an opportunity for people to dabble in games that they, never imagined they were capable of. Such as like with an EverDrive on the Super Nintendo, I'm able to play Street Fighter Alpha 2, and I never played that version, even though it sucks. But it's an option. And another thing is, with new TVs coming out with 4K resolution, we have mods out there that can upscale the image. You know, it's I think it's awesome. It provides a new avenue for retro gaming and for preservation. And
Right.
even though piracy is frowned upon, it's really a gateway for new discovery, new
Let's
titles and games.
let's talk about that real quick. The term piracy, because
Yeah.
we've all heard it. We were the generation that grew up with the technology boom. We were the ones who were there during the internet, PC craze, Napster allegations, all those different types of piracy. You know, it was almost to the point that it was just so common to see kids downloading a variety of different things onto their PCs, whether it's music, TV episodes, whatnot. We all had our fair share of what programs we use: Livewire, BearShare, so many different ones. And then, of course, we had ROM hack sites. Cool ROMs was one that I used to use quite a bit. We had emulation, JNES, ZS, NES, all those different awesome programs. So, with what we know is considered piracy versus what we know is considered, hacking or modifying, is modding a console therefore considered illegal?
That's a great question.
What are your thoughts on that?
Um,
Can I just say one thing, kind of just the devil's advocate of the piracy thing? Let's not forget we are funding this industry. We are almost all of us in here big time collectors. We have
Right.
shelves of fucking games out the ass that we support Nintendo and their greedy ways and never having sales and not getting into tangents here. Not getting into tangents here, but we are tremendous at funding these consoles, whether it's PlayStation, Xbox. We have an ass load of games. I look at it like we're supplementing, okay, our collection in a small way, okay, because we can't have all the games. We spend what we can, and a lot of times it's most of our expendable income on this shit. It's anything we can come up with, right? Any side money goes into this. So I just want to say on the side, like I just don't feel bad about it. Whether I got to throw a lot of these games on an EverDrive or a modded system, because it's not only what we're doing. We're not only like doing this.
So-
We are buying 80% of our collections. On most of us, I really feel like I can say that knowing most of the people here in chat that we are buying 80% of our fucking games. Now, the percentage could vary here and there. It just as a general statement, I feel that we really are funding this fucking industry. So, hell, fuck it. Mod these systems. That's the way I feel. But
here's
there'll
the
be
thing.
somebody to devil's advocate that, and maybe BFG can do that.
Well, there's a few nuances, what have yous here. So real quick to respond to you, Ryan. The only point I want to make with that is that you're not wrong, but I can't go down to Walmart and buy a brand new Super Nintendo game or a brand new Sega Genesis game. Those games have all been made. They've made their money on them. Nowadays, people are trying to get people, meaning the publishers, are trying to get money by re-releasing these games on a digital storefront, which we've all bought multiple times, I'm sure, as well, right? Across multiple consoles.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they're able to make money off those same IPs. But buying a game at a thrift store or picking it up somebody, the original developer is not seeing any money off of that. So that is why that's the devil's advocate side to why piracy should not be allowed, because the developers see no monetary I don't even know the word I'm trying to think of right now, but they don't get any money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Now with what Zombie was asking about, is it illegal? No, and the reason it's not is because there was a court case with this, and I'd have to look it up. It was taken to court, and they basically said once you've bought the hardware, it's yours to do whatever you want with it. Now, on the flip side, can they ban your console from playing online? Oh yeah, right. They will do those sorts of things to prevent you, and they're within their right to do so. If they notice your console's modded, like if you go online with the modded Switch, Nintendo will be on your ass. Like, you will be modded, you will be banned,
Mm-hmm.
and not allowed. And the Switch, even if you unmod it, can never be allowed online again.
Well,
they are
compared to like the movie industry, right? Like everybody. Okay, a lot of people are either renting movies or going to the theaters, or we used to, on the most part, going to theaters, and we're watching some movies on the side through nefarious means. You know what I mean? We're gonna do that in a small amount. I guess my point was just that none of us here are only pirating games. Like, we're not just playing games we're pirating. That's it. Like, we are supporting the industry. So it's like, I feel like it's the 80-20 rule. Like, if you're gonna supplement some games through other means, so be it, because we're giving the fucking industry enough of our money.
I agree with you. The problem here is that, as somebody, again, meaning Nintendo or Sega, as they are the license holders to their games, they have a legal duty to protect those IPs, which is why they have to sue some people every once in a while for piracy. So that
for me, the line is when you start trying to make money off of it. Do not do that.
Yeah.
Like, when we're talking about private use. They don't give a fuck on the most part.
They really don't.
Playing these games in our house. If you were reproducing games for profit, like on disc, and trying to sell them, like, yeah, go after their ass, because that's bullshit. You should not be able to profit off that.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's private use, fuck it. We're all doing that.
Right.
Well, that kind of the flip side of that is you got people who are making repros,
Exactly.
right? And they're making money off of it. But again, if they really cared, they should re-release Musha, and I should be able to buy a new copy of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can't. And if I want to play it on my original hardware, I either have to get an EverDrive and load it with the legal ROMs, or I find somebody that makes me a repro of it, and I paid,
Also, that selection of games Nintendo offers with the subscription for NES and Super Nintendo is abysmal and embarrassing.
Currently, yes. Previously, no. Previously, on the Wii Virtual Console, they did an amazing job releasing games. But now you look at the downside of digital, right? They're gone. You can't buy those TurboGrafx games anymore. You can't buy the Super Nintendo games anymore on the Virtual Console. Now you get what they give you, and you shut up and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I mean, we're kind of off topic.
How many times do they get a double or triple dip into our pockets to rebuy the same fucking shit for the next console?
Well, as long as people keep buying, they're gonna keep doing it, and that's that's the way the market works, man. Like, That was the whole thing with scalpers on these PS4s, PS5s, Switches, whatever it is. If people would stop paying the scalper, and in this case, Nintendo is the scalper, is what I'm trying to say, then they wouldn't, see a reason to do that again. But it's not gonna, it's not gonna happen. So let's see.
Yeah, but another thing is, guys, is that Quesadilla Padilla brought up a good point in the chat. Is that these laser discs, these laser disc systems aren't lasting as long as we'd like them to. For instance, my PS1, I ended up modding it because the laser, even though I swapped it out with another laser that was supposed to be good, still wasn't reading the FMV videos that well. I got tired and put in a PSIO, which is essentially a SD card reader that communicates with the serial port of the first initial PS1 systems.
That's right.
And it avoids going through the laser disc to read the games. Now I do have the option of still putting in a physical game and having the laser read it, but I like having that convenience of running a game as perfectly as possible with OG hardware.
So we're not just talking about the fear of disc rot. We're talking about internal parts, pretty much fading out of existence as well.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the concerns that was going around for a while, and I want to say that it's still kind of out there, but not as bad as it was before. The whole concept of disc rotting versus, say, a cartridge that would probably last longer as the years go on, and I think that's already been proven when we look at how old and how functioning some of the older cartridge-based systems are. So when it comes to this idea of preservation, which you guys all know I'm all about, which is why my collection is the way that it is, would modifying the console, or in most cases the cartridge, be more efficient? Or is there really no distinguishing factor?
It depends. That's actually a really interesting question too, Zombie. I have seen so like for my Saturn, for example, I haven't jumped on the disc, the optical
ODE?
the OD. I haven't jumped on that bandwagon yet. I just haven't spent money because what I did do is I got a action replay cartridge
Right.
that plugs into the Saturn, and I modded the action replay cartridge so that the action replay cartridge can now allow the Saturn to play burned games.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I didn't really mod the console. I modded the cartridge, but the result is the same. I get to play Saturn games that I'm not paying for. If you don't mind, real quick, I do want to address J Chip's question.
Yeah, go for it.
About the morality of piracy. I don't necessarily, I would use the word moral here. I would probably rephrase your question and ask, is it ethical? And I would put it in the same context as speeding. Are you technically breaking the law? Yes. But are you doing it at an excessive rate where you're endangering somebody? Well, it could be if you're ripping off indie games and the developer isn't, like still trying to make their money, and it's a new game that's out, and you didn't pay the $5 because that's all. You know what I mean? Like that would be more of a unethical piracy. Whereas where the majority of consoles I would say are not modded. Therefore, when a game is hitting double platinum and they're having on the greatest hits and they're coming out, millions and millions of copies sold, I don't think it's unethical at that point. That's just my view. Um, so there are some distinctions to draw and some choices you make as to what your conscience would allow. Um, for me, I would feel bad ripping off like the games that you could get. Oh, what do they call it? You could buy on for the PC, the humble
Steam?
bundles.
Oh, yeah.
The humble bundle, yeah, where you can donate, right, and they give you the games, right? You can donate $1, you can donate 10, whatever you want, right? That I think that would be a little silly to try to pirate those games. But
Well, let's take like me and Hector. We both have a modded PS2 fat that we have all the shit, all the games on the hard drive itself. So like we're talking like you can fit on a 2 terabyte. You can fit like 500 games on there, PS2 games. Is Sony gonna make money off us buying that shit? I mean, maybe we already made this argument, but are they gonna make money off us buying used copies of that shit on eBay? No, they're not. They're not making money off us buying used copies of that. And they're not putting those games for sale on the PS3 store. They're about to take down the PS3 store. You can't even get PS3 games soon in less than a year, right? So there's no other way or means to get him.
the other thing about the piracy of this media is there is the archival purposes, and I think that's why archive.org is okay hosting it, because there has to be a way to keep it available for people to access once it was released to the public, right? Um, i- if because especially the um, how quickly games get delisted, how quickly digital copies and digital stores are getting shut down. You see this happening, and then these games are gone, and some games can be lost forever due to that. And then I would say that's unethical to the developer. That's unethical to the teams, the music people that worked on that game, because their art, their work is no longer, accessible.
Is that a shared opinion you have towards, let's say, prototypes and ROMs that never made it past the developmental stage, but people have begun to dump the ROMs for fans to have access and also the right organizations to preserve it later? Do you feel the same way about that?
Can we
Absolutely.
switch to Hector's video?
Fuck. I mean, yeah, that's fine.
I just want to illustrate
No, I'm
how the
just
menu systems work.
I'm just
I
messing
just
with.
want to illustrate how the menu systems work when you add all, because you can scroll through the games and you get all the thumbnails. I want to show that, because people that don't know what modded systems the software looks like, I want to show how easy it is to scroll through the libraries on the go.
That's a great. Yeah, we should.
Sorry, I didn't mean. We just need to get that on there.
I'm teasing. I'm. There's no need to apologize. I'm just messing with you.
Damn, Ryan's acting like a grandpa that can't find anything on TV to watch. Change the channel. I don't like this.
At least it didn't play that national anthem and then go to static.
Illustrate though what people don't know what it looks like. People don't know what a modded Wii, what the menu looks like. They don't know. Most of the people here.
All right, so Hector, since this is your video, would you care to describe what's taking place for our audience?
Well, right now I'm in the game in the video. We're looking at Street Fighter versus Tatsunoko, I
Hell
think it's the
yeah.
name of the game. And that game, I'm running it off of the external hard drive I have hooked up to the USB port in the back. That is
So what part of
farthest.
this video, Hector, Do you start scrolling
Yeah.
in the middle?
Uh, I I think it was in the beginning, towards the beginning.
My one gripe with this is, well, this game anyway, is they didn't add my favorite character from Gatchaman, so I still want it, but I'm a little pissed they didn't put the best character in there. They gave us Ken the Eagle. I don't care about Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah, we deserve a sequel to that game, to be quite honest with you. We need a sequel that's gonna be on the Switch, the PS4.
I
We need a
agree.
new one.
So this is a ROM. This is not the actual game disc.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's a ROM.
Okay. So in all your guys' experiences of hacking and modding and all that stuff, do you guys notice any problems comparing original discs to ROMs at all? What are some of the common issues with ROMs that you guys encounter?
Uh, Sometimes the ROM image will be corrupted,
Yeah.
So
Well, it
what?
rips the
and
ISO off the disk, the ISO. So it's removing the data from the disk directly. There's no difference. It's not like, emulators where the sound might be different. It's the straight artifact, the data, the ISO ROM off the disk.
So explain to us what exactly is an image when it comes to this.
So
pretty much a digital copy of the game, the
the
physical
the
game.
best way to the way I would explain it is, since everything is digital, so what that means is that it lives in a state of ones and zeros, right? When you break it down to it, um, that the computer, and in this case, the computer is a Wii or whatever the console is, then interprets the ones and zeros. So instead of the ones and zeros being read off the disk, they are copied into a file that is a one-to-one copy of those ones and zeros. As long as it was a good, clean, exact copy, then there's usually no issues. If there was something went wrong in the copying process, then you could get a corrupt image, like we're talking about. And so we call it an image because it's an exact copy to the ones and zeros level of whatever the disc is. And this applies to CDs, DVDs, uh, and ROMs themselves. The That's why EverDrives have become so popular, because as long as you have a good copy of the ROM, the console itself doesn't know any different.
So basically, you're just harnessing the data that's on the disk without having to use the disk.
You got it,
Oh
100%.
yeah.
See, I smart.
No, that's a really good way of saying it.
And
So,
you guys mentioned before that you experience problems with these. Is it just the way that it's uploaded? Is the data corrupted? Like, what are the more common things that you guys see with that?
It could be all of the above. It could have been a bad copy, could have been a bad upload, could have been, anywhere in that process where you're transferring that file from one place to another, there is a risk that copying process, the download process, the upload process, there's something goes wrong. Maybe the internet went down halfway through the upload, and so you found the file that was just half done or whatever.
Right.
So it could be any of that.
Have you guys experienced what we used to back in the day with, downloading various files from all the different torrents and websites we used, where somebody intentionally mislabels something, and you think you're getting this game, but then you get like a ROM that, or an image that doesn't work, or a different game entirely. Is that something that you guys still come across?
No,
I
I know
never
what you
have.
mean though.
I know, yeah,
Like,
and I see it more with movies that I've acquired
Right.
digitally.
I
Somebody
mean,
Well,
will.
I'll give you an example on the Pi 4. We get images through Arcade Punks, and Arcade Punks is a hosting site where people post images. What the images are is everything on the Pi. All the emulators. It's like a preloaded, pre-setup uh, of everything. Like, so you'll be able to scroll through all your systems: Genesis, Super Nintendo, Nintendo, and
mm-hmm.
all the libraries are in there. It's pre-formatted, pre-made. So, like, one of the images I got, like, I'll go through some of the Genesis games are actually the Mega Drive versions, so they'll be in Japanese, or you know what I mean. So, like, you'll get stuff like that where somebody created a library, but it's a mixture of, there's some mistakes in there where they put Mega Drive games in where they want to put Genesis, like little stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
usually it won't be like something labeled one thing and it's another thing. It's usually either that, or it's like, the game just won't run because there's some kind of bug to it, or they didn't rip it right off the disc
Mm.
or card. Yeah, and what ODG is saying, there's also converters, and I use them for the Pi 4. So you can do cube in to ISO, okay? And then you can reformat what the format is. You're not stuck with that format. If your emulator is going to run a certain format and you need that to run, and you can't do a cube in, you can do a cube in to ISO formatter, and other things that change one file format to another and put it all into one file, or that kind of stuff. So you're not stuck with that one file format either.
So, what is the process of getting an image in? Like, what's involved with that? Like, I would assume you have to have the original copy of the software, and then you would just rip it from that, or is it like an extensive process? Like, how does that work exactly?
You would need the software to pull it off the disk. Like, there's software that will pull it from the disk and convert it to the file type you need.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm saying, there's some that'll let you decide on which format you want to output from it, or if you
Right.
want to change it after the fact. So this is what all I wanted to show, because somebody like Freak was saying, Freak doesn't know what that looks like, the software, and the when you're scrolling through. This is how simple it is. Once you have a modded Wii, if you do it right, see all these thumbs, you can just scroll through them like a wheel, and like it's saying 136 games there, I believe, that you can just scroll through and just jump and just click on the fly and just go right into them. Versus having 137 games on disc. If you're streaming, you got to swap a disc every time.
Mm-hmm.
You're saving time. Like, for somebody like streams like me, I'd love that. But you know, for now, I just have all my games on physical. But you can just see how amazing that is. With the way the software is in the layout, it's dead simple. Once you get it set up, you just scroll through that wheel and pick whatever game you want. You can even do it alphabetized and organize it like that. It's your virtual library.
yeah, you could also categorize it by system. If you have like the virtual Wii, like for the Wii console that we're looking at right now, there's virtual console games for like Turbo Graphics, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. You could break it down into systems.
And is this the whole Wii library? Hector, that you've got here, or is it just a
No,
mixture of random games?
I'm missing some games for sure, but I have the majority of the heavy hitters, and I do
Yeah,
have
the
some
cream of
stuff
the
too
crop,
here and there.
the cream of the
Yeah.
crop, so to speak. The games you'd want to have, not the shovel, like the best, minus the shovelware, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is some shovelware, but
Yeah.
let
I mean, like
That's fair.
when you look at your NES ROMs, Ryan, I would assume you don't have Dash Galaxy on there.
Oh, I do. Unfortunately, I will just never click it. Never ever click it.
So, is this a lengthy process to do, or is it just as simple as, you make sure you have the space, and then you just like download and install the whole library practically? Or
yeah, pretty much because the beauty of this um user interface here is that it has a function where you can download cover arts and
Mhm.
disc art as well. And it's definitely influenced by um the uh the mod scene with the first Xbox, because that system has a similar UI where you can scroll through games with artwork.
Yeah, and see how you type in the game title in here. So that's how intuitive the menu is. The menu is so intuitive, you can just type it out and it'll show up.
Mhm.
You can
Yo, Ryan, you have a
expand the
modded
thumbnail.
you- do you have a modded Wii as well? Or are you planning to get one?
I planned on doing it, and that's why I picked up a Wii U 2 to mod it. And you know what I
Oh,
ended up
nice.
doing, man? I just started just collecting physical form. Even though I have a Pi and I have all these EverDrives, I just part of it is I didn't have a Wii or Wii U before, so I started off and I'm like, the games were so cheap for the
Right.
Wii and the Wii, even the Nintendo first party titles. I like just started collecting, and before you know it, I had like 20, 30 games. And I probably only have 100 or 200 into each system for the prices I was getting them for. Um, but that's just one of those things. When it comes to Nintendo, I like to have the physical.
Yeah.
But everything else, I'd love to have one modded.
I see you switched to the GameCube library. That's pretty cool. So what are the pros and cons of having a modded console versus, say, a Raspberry Pi, another very popular gaming medium that's often talked about in our part of the community? What are the pros and cons of having one over the other? Do you recommend having both?
I think the biggest pro is you're playing it on the original hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now pies have come a long way, and even if you're familiar with the Mister, that is definitely the way to go for emulation, um, because they try to actually emulate the actual hardware before they emulate the games. Whereas on a Pi, they're really just emulating the the whole console. I mean, and the games. Um, it's way more accurate, is what I would say. So a lot of time with emulation, you run into issues with sound sometimes,
Lag, the most
graphical
infamous
glitches,
one.
possibly. Again, it's gotten better
Mm-hmm.
over the years, but when you do it this way, like we're watching here, these were um, technically right. It's an emulator that Nintendo wrote themselves for the Wii to play these games. So they tried to make it as good as they could. Um, so you're playing it on the original, the closest way you could.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if it was the Wii game, you're playing it. The system doesn't know the difference at that point. The system just thinks you're playing it regularly. So there's no issues.
Right.
Now, what about there's somebody that says, Ryan, I'm gonna hook this Wii up and I'm gonna play these Wii games and these GameCube games off this modded Wii, but I'm concerned. I want the clearest resolution. I want the clearest picture quality. Well, luckily, Amazon for like $10, they got a nice little device that I have on the back of mine. It up converts to HDMI, and it looks absolutely perfect. It's $10. It usually says, I think it puts out 720 if I'm correct on that. And it looks great. As far as the difference between how bad RCA would look on that shit versus, you stick it in the back where you would normally put in the RCA cables that would come out the back, and instead, it allows you to hook in an HDMI cable into that, an adapter. So, say you can get a Wii sometimes as cheap as like $20 to $40.
Right.
If you look on Facebook Marketplace, and then you get this $10 adapter, now you got you're $30 deep, and you got basically HD Wii and GameCube games on a modded system.
Mm-hmm.
And I would almost call that a mod in and of itself. You've added functionality to the console that was not originally there.
Speaking of RCA and the original display and using the original hardware and whatnot, what about for very hardcore fans who love that old CRT look on a modern console or a modern TV screen? Are there filters? Are there any types of configurations you can do with a modded console or a Pi to give it that nostalgia look?
You can do scan lines, and you can do a lot of them. Will have in the software. Do you want to do? It'll make it look like crisper. I forget what they call it. Like, some people hate it, and some people leave that off. Like where it'll kind of round off the edges.
Oh, bilinear filter, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called.
It depends on the console and the emulator, and there's a lot of factors that go into it, but a lot of the time they do offer some sort of filters or scan lines or something like that. There's usually a lot of things to play with.
Why is this relevant right now for GameCube especially? Because GameCube prices are horrible right now.
Yeah.
Terrible.
GameCube prices are horrible right now. Somebody that is a gamer and is looking for some way to play these GameCube games, this may be their only option.
Mm-hmm.
If you just can't, because say you want to play those Mario Party. You know what those Mario parties go for on GameCube? Absurd bullshit prices, like 100 or more on some of those Mario parties.
Right, and that's why
absurd prices.
That's why I would support the idea of modding or ROM hacking or whatever, because yeah, if you are never going to be able to afford some of those and you don't want a repro cart, it's definitely the best alternative. And also, we got to think about, as a collector, if you don't have the room to house a lot of physical media, then this is another great option for you, because you've got everything you need right in one little machine. Whether you go RetroPie, modded console, you've got practically everything.
I can tell you that. So, okay, just my personal preference. Chris BFG might agree with me here. My personal preference, when I look at the NES emulator, just look at the visually. Okay, visually, I found the Wii scrolling through the thumbnails and the GameCube scrolling through the thumbnails, the libraries, very visually appealing, very modern, very, very beautiful scrolling through that. I find this now, in my opinion, this NES emulation here, that menu looks like dog shit to me. It looks like something from 15 years ago. Now, that is why, just for me, call me fussy, I would prefer on my Pi 4 where you can, have any kind of template you want. It's a little zippier. You have the snaps, the video snaps. What the video snaps are is when you scroll through the list of the library, you're going to see a nice 15-second preview on video of what each game is. And it's very intuitive. And you'll scroll through and the video will pop up seamlessly. So just my taste, I would not care to play old school on. I would probably jump to my Pi for this kind of stuff. But somebody that puts it all in one, I definitely could understand that if you don't care about that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of actually in that boat, Ryan. You're in the menu for just a short period of time. As long as the game plays,
Right.
that's all that matters to me.
Now, Hector, when you're playing your modded consoles like this, and let's say you make the jump back to OG hardware, do you notice any differences? Do you notice?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what would be some of them that you?
Input lag.
Ah.
Now, I would say that if you're gonna like on a Wii especially, I would recommend using a CRT with that.
Yeah, that's correct. It
Because
depends on
the input lag is going to come from your TV or the conversion to the digital, to HDMI. That's well, you experienced that with those new mini consoles as well, which, by the way, again, is emulation. It's emulation that's licensed by Sega or Nintendo or Turbo or whatever. They're the ones that wrote the emulators, sometimes poorly.
Oh, look at that.
I'm looking at you, PlayStation Mini.
Right. Using the European ROMs, wasn't it?
Right. Like so. I had to mod the PlayStation Mini just to make it playable. But once you did, man, that thing is great.
Right.
To answer Freaka 4, what differentiates a Pi 3 or 3B Plus from a 4 is the 4 can handle N64 games way better, almost all the library, and it can handle Dreamcast where the 3 can't handle Dreamcast at all. So what the 4 does, the main perk is ups the CPU power to be able to run the Dreamcast games and N64. So, I mean, that depends on how much you want to play those systems. If you don't care about those systems, you're fine just with your 3B Plus because because on a 3B Plus you can play everything from NES all the way up to PS1. You're just left without N64 and Dreamcast. On the Pi 4, the Saturn is still mixed bag. Can't run all those games, but it nails it with the N64 and Dreamcast now.
So in cases like that where a RetroPie can't handle certain ROMs and emulation, is that where you would probably make the decision to say, okay, well, time to mod one of those consoles, or do you just bide your time and see what improvements they make with the next Pi, or you just kind of like pick and choose out of that? Like, where do you go from there, basically? Like, if I wanted something that could handle some of the systems and software that apparently some of these can't.
Well, Zombie, I gotta say, when it comes to a system like the Saturn that's hard to emulate to begin with, I would just cop the system and mod it at that point, especially with how ridiculously priced these used Saturn games are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like even some of the Japanese Saturn games have creeped up over the years in terms of pricing.
So the other thing is, if that isn't something somebody wanted to do, which I would also recommend. I mean, I agree with Hector, by the way, that you definitely get the console. But if you had most modern PCs are powerful enough to do some really great emulation for almost I mean just about anything. Like there's even Switch emulation on PC, and it's not great. The Switch emulation is not great, but I think Saturn is pretty decent, and PS2 is excellent with upscaling. So you can get some really good looking PS2 games on your PC.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a question here, Hector. It looks like you changed the templates to do thumbnails now. Was that possible with the NES ones too? Because you're scrolling through Super Nintendo games now, but now we have the thumbnails. Remember
Correct
when we were
me if
on
I'm wrong.
NES before?
That was
So
go ahead, Hector.
Oh, sorry, BFG.
No, no.
Yeah. Uh, so when I was going through the NES games earlier, that was through an emulator within the homebrew applications uh, of this Wii console. Um, what we're seeing now are the virtual console
Oh,
NES re-releases and Super
and that's
Nintendo
why
and
they look so
Genesis.
nice with the thumbs.
Yes, that's correct. Because with this UI, this user interface, you're able to download cover arts to Virtual Console games. Uh, the Wii games and the GameCube titles as well.
Nice.
Actually, it also has icons and art for the Weather Channel, which is no longer accessible because Nintendo shut down the server for the Wii, the online servers.
Let me ask you this: how maybe you don't know the answer to this, or maybe you do, but how hard would it be to have emulators for like NES, Super Nintendo, and Genesis, and have everything through a nice click wheel with all the thumbs? Is that possible? To kind of have more
Oh,
of a modern looking pie kind of style?
well, there is artwork for the emulators themselves too, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know.
That once you click on it, it'll just jump you to the emulator. But that's the closest thing I can think about in regards to like what the Pi can offer with regards to the layout.
I think the bottom line is there's so many different ways to play these games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and however your preference is, if you just want to get in and start playing, you can do that. If you want to make it look real pretty and have these visuals like what we're seeing here, you could do that. It's all about one, how much effort you want to put into setting it up and getting it going, which something like this wasn't, it's not a whole lot of effort. If you want to build your own pie and your own image, you could do that, right? um, I just encourage anybody that is thinking about it to go ahead and jump in. You won't regret it.
And if you're unsure of some topics, just, do a little Google searching. That's how I got started with the scene. And this was like years ago when I was, when I just got well, not just got, but when I was, uh, you know, getting into the modding scene for the Wii. Just did some
So
Google
that's important.
searching.
What
Yeah,
OD
digging into
Oh,
forums.
playing one of my favorite games.
so what ODG said is important because he's saying you can install the themes. Because if you notice, some of the layouts on the Wii look a little dated at this point, but if you can install themes to make kind of like the menu and the scrolling look a little more modern, you could kind of get that pie look. That's so appealing.
Oh, that's right. You can do that. I just never got into it because, like, I was just happy with what I had, But if you, want something more out of the user interface and you want to add a theme, there's the option.
So let's keep it real though. With like, say somebody's novice, say somebody doesn't really mess with, uh, you know, somebody that is watching how to mod a Wii to the extent you did might be a little bit overwhelmed, right? To have it as nice as
Correct.
you did with the full almost with a big library and the thumbs on everything, and because I think some of the really quick mods on the Wii, right, it's just so you can rip the discs and stuff. Like, what would be the advice you'd give, somebody that's a little apprehensive or feels a little overwhelmed, because there are going to be some people that are a little scared to take on something like this.
Well, I would tell them maybe think about, making a purchase on eBay or Etsy where it's already pre-configured for you. Because
There you go.
there are sellers that offer that service. They even give you the option of what external hard drive you want to rock with your Wii. You know, you can go 500 gig, 1 TB, 2 TB.
And just so people know, so people don't get ripped off by somebody, what would you expect to pay somebody to pre do all that for you, take care of that leg work? What would be a fair
Uh,
price to pay somebody?
$60 plus shipping. It doesn't sound too bad.
Okay.
And when you
But then you gotta incorporate, you know, the cost of the parts that you would need, like an SD card, and I'm just talking about the service. You know, like without parts,
so if I
because
was
sorry, zombie.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead. No, you continue.
Not because I'm just saying that you would need an SD card, an external hard drive, or a pen drive, depending on what size you want to go with.
Well, here's why I bring up the point about there's novices out there. There's people that
Yeah.
are apprehensive to do this kind of stuff. Here's why, okay? We're all extremely tech savvy in this stream, on the most part. Okay? A lot of people out there. You know how many people I talk to that are gamers that don't know what the fuck a RetroPie is, that don't know what an EverDrive is, that don't know anything about except just playing the actual physical disc or card. That's why I say stuff like that. Like I'm trying to remind everybody we're very tech savvy in here. There's a lot of like ODG, the way he's talking about shit. I think he should just do this fucking podcast because he knows his shit. You know what I'm fucking saying? So I'm just saying we're very tech savvy up in here right now, and we need to remember that your average gamer is not going to be able to just pull off half this shit now. So I'm just trying to bring it back down to earth a little bit about a lot of people aren't familiar with RetroPies. A lot of people aren't familiar with modern systems. A lot of people aren't familiar with EverDrives, all these things that are available.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, going back on the eBay and Etsy crowd of, you know, modders that offer their services, you know, there's a review system to each of those websites. So, you know, before you make, you know, a purchase for such service, or make a purchase for an already modded console that you just purchased for like $300,
Yeah, do your due diligence for sure.
you know, just do your research, read all the reviews, and, you know, just go with your gut on who is going to offer that service for you. That's what I would say to folks that, you know, don't want to get their hands dirty.
Right.
Now, when you buy these modded consoles from somebody on eBay or wherever, do you usually get the complete console? We're talking like all the other necessary hookups, or do they just sell you the deck itself?
It depends, because I've seen listings for, like, you know, like a modding kit that has all the essentials for you to mod, like mod an Xbox or a Wii or PS2. Like the listings are very clear of what they offer. You just have to go in and read the description, and it's all up to you if you want to just buy the console and have it ready, as like you turn it on and you're able to jump into any game. Go with a pre-modded console.
Right. See, I see your game room here, your little setup. I see cartridges. I see various things. So, you know, it's nice to have. It's nice to have the original format, because I too love having my cartridges and my CDs. But again, I see the added benefit of having a setup like this where, you know, you don't have to worry about damaging your original CD, your cartridge. It's just the convenience factor. But
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
you know, I
It's like
Like
a big old gut, you know. Life is
Right.
too
like
convenient.
zombie, say money was no option. Say I had the whole week. Like, you remember that guy on Metal Jesus? He had like this massive wall. It's every fucking Wii game.
Yup. His
Yeah.
name's
Have you seen
Casey.
that guy? Chris knows what's up. Okay, that guy. Even if I was that guy, you know what? I still want this modded Wii. You know why? Strictly for streaming.
Right.
I don't want to swap discs till the cows come home, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just want to play the games on
Yeah,
stream.
I
So,
agree.
like, I still want this, even if I was that guy with every Wii game.
Yeah. And I used to do that too. You know, when I got back into YouTube and I was streaming, I was still using my original consoles. You know, you guys would see me uh, blank the screen so that I could be fumbling in the background trying to get all my systems to work. And then Edwin hooked me up with a Pi, which I still use to this day. But with the clutter in my room right now, because we're always moving, always rearranging stuff, I do miss using the original hardware when I stream. But again, I also see the benefit of just being able to turn the Pi on and be like, okay, now we'll go to this system. Now we'll go to this system. Unless I have to play something that is exclusive for a console, like, you know, I want to stream Werewolf the Apocalypse again. I have to run the little lady's PS4, you know, or if I go back to Pokemon and I have to stream off my Switch. So, you know, I'm still using OG hardware here and there, but the convenience factor of having the Pi is definitely where it's at for me.
See, for me, like I'm such a stickler for like that the lag
Mm-hmm.
because I have a Mr. FPGA and I have a Pi, and when I use it on like a flat panel, I feel like the FPGA performs better with regards to the input latency. But that's a sort of different topic than what we're discussing here tonight. But I just want to say that, you know, it just depends on your taste. You know, because I had a Pi and then I jumped on FPGA and I'm like, whoa, my button response time is real good on this.
Right.
But FPGA is a little bit more on the price chart that compared to a Pi. You can easily get a Pi, easily get an image ready to go. It's definitely convenient. And you can pop it into any HDMI TV. You know, play with another person using any USB device. It's real convenient.
Yeah, I've heard a few of the members in our part of the community talking about the Mister, and some of us have already streamed using one. So,
Yeah,
where,
I've been caught streaming one.
where,
That's high on my list right now.
how would you explain what a Mister is in comparison to everything we've just discussed about tonight, and what would you say is the pro and con of that?
Well, the Mister offers FPGA, which you know, really simulates the hardware of a console. It's still emulation, uh, but it's like more. I feel like it's more precise because it's simulating the chips that were on the original board of that game or arcade machine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's something that interested me, was that it could simulate the arcade boards, because that is huge. Because there are some ROMs out there for arcade games that just don't run the game like it's supposed to run. And I believe BFG knows what I'm talking about, but
Yep.
FPGA just has, in my personal view, has a lot more to offer than just regular emulation,
Mm-hmm.
like from a Pi.
That's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Is the accuracy.
Yeah.
Whereas the FPGA Mister emulates every single chip that was on the console to the exact specs that the console offered. That is why it's so much better than any other kind of emulation.
But to be fair, Chris, we're getting into the purist here. This is really for the purists. if affordability is a factor, you might want to just go with a Pi or a low level Pi or whatever, or just a modded. If you know, for like arcade and stuff like that. If you're really the purist, you want to go for that. The Mister, you know. Shouldn't we
I
differentiate that for
agree.
the people?
Correct.
So the Mister is pretty much identical to what the original tech was, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay. And what allows it to be so accurate compared to a modded system or a Pi? What capabilities does it really have over the other two options?
It's because the chips inside the Mister change themselves on the fly based on the system you're running. So that then um, when you play a game, it's as close to the real console as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on a Pi, it's a piece of software that is running that is trying to mimic those chips. And due to the limitations of the Pi itself, because it's not, I mean, it's a powerful little computer, but it's not that powerful. Um, some shortcuts, I don't know what the word is, some sacrifices are made in the emulation to get it to run. And I would venture more so with some of these higher end systems like Dreamcast and N64. While again, they're working on the software still, whereas with the Mister, to make them better, but with the Mister, that they took the specs from the chips and programmed them into it so that the processors inside the Mister can change themselves based on whatever console you're running.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really hard. I mean, the whole thing we talk about FPGA. I forget if we mentioned what that is an acronym for. It stands for Field Programmable Array, and that is what I'm talking about, where it can change on the fly based on whatever console you're talking about.
But what BFG is saying is, if you don't use a Mister or run every console through SCART, you're a bitch. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay,
Uh,
I mean,
So, if you were to rank these Raspberry Pi, modded console, Mister, what recommendations would you give?
there's too many factors to just say off the top. If cost is not a factor, Mister, right? If you're just trying to get into it and see if you like emulation, see if you're just trying to get some games going and you already have a Wii, go with the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
If you're kind of somewhere in the middle and you kind of want to have it all at once and you want it to look pretty and almost the best bang for your buck is going to be a Pi, if you can find one right now due to the chip shortage.
Right.
Man, I'll tell you, I have like 10 consoles hooked up for streaming. And what do I have the most fun with probably at the end of the fucking day?
Xbox.
That fucking Pi 4. You know why? Because I could jump from so many systems. I'm playing Dreamcast 1 minute. I'm back to NES. Now I'm on N64. Now I'm on Genesis. I mean, you just can't beat it. It's like the fun. Man, if you guys don't have a Pi 4, just go get one, dude. It's so fun.
Is that
Especially when you load up a nice image and you can just jump console to console. That's when I have the most fun doing the streams. You know, I stream with the Xbox. I stream with the PS4. I don't have the newest consoles yet, the PS5 and all that. But like I play all these other consoles, and when I think back, what do I have the most fun playing? It's playing like, you know, arcade on the Pi and jumping in Dreamcast and jumping to card games and just all that smorgasbord of consoles in one unit is just a blast.
Mm-hmm.
But
Is
that's just me.
is
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say Chum Nasty is in here. Welcome, Chum Nasty, by the way, and he has a good question as well. Um, in regards to these newer systems like the Super NT and the Analog or the Super SG, what they're doing, and the reason they're so superior is they're using that FPGA technology we're talking about in the Mister, whereas the Mister does it with all these other um, multiple consoles. You still can't stick an original cartridge in a Mister. So they took the FPGA technology, added a cartridge slot, added HDMI out, and added a very slick, aluminum shell, and put it on a nice package for you. That's why they're so much better, because a clone console is more, they're getting emulation done the cheapest, quickest way that they can. And I'm looking at those Retron consoles, right? That's why there's a lot of known issues with those. But the Super NT and the Analog, they put in the work to give you the best experience.
I have a question for all you guys. So, and maybe the people in the chat. Were you ever turned off by when you were emulating on a PC? So this is let's go back a second. When I was in college, I was like not I didn't have a ton of systems, okay? So I would emulate, cart-based systems and shit on my PC, and I really didn't like that form factor experience of that. I really like, having the console or the real controller, or it's something like, you use your PC for, browsing the web and that kind of stuff. And maybe people feel different. Maybe they want to use their PC for everything, but I really like having it all in a Pi, or, which is essentially, I know, a small computer. But there's just something that turns me off about, playing games off that PC tower. I don't know what it is. It feels like too detached from the console experience. And maybe I'm crazy with saying that. Somebody will say, Ryan, what's the fucking difference? Who cares? A Pi is a small PC. What are you even saying? But there's something about it. There's something about a PC tower. I don't like gaming on that. I don't know. It turns me off. But, you know, like playing on a modded Wii, or like that's an actual gaming system. I don't know. I'm weird like that. Like little things affect my console experience, my gaming experience. Do you feel that way, or not? Not really. You don't care. You just want to play the games. I'd love to get your guys' opinion on that.
The benefit of a Pi is it kind of feels like its own little console, and I totally understand what you're saying. Whereas if I'm going to set up my PC, I could still emulate the games just like I could on the Pi, and some of them might even run better. But it's not like you're sitting down to console game, which is the kind of experience you're looking for, right? If that makes sense.
It's like playing on the PC feels like you're at like a cubicle in a corporation. It's just not as it's too restrictive. It's something about it. It makes me feel like I'm back at those corporate jobs I worked in New York. It's like I want to be removed from that vibe.
I will say though that when I used to play games on my roommate's PC, that I never really experienced an issue with lag on those like I have with Retro Pies, which is kind of interesting. But I think the customizable aesthetic of a Retro Pi is probably what puts you at ease, because you can house one. You can house one in like a mini system shell. The first one Edwin sent me was in the shell of a Bayou Billy cart, which I still remember to this day thinking, "Oh, I have this game already, but cool." And then he was like, no, it's a Raspberry Pi. And then I looked at the bottom. I was like, oh, cool. I just embarrassed myself. Awesome. Um, but I think that's part of what makes the aesthetic of having a Raspberry Pi um, more fun, because you can deck it out the way that you want, and
Exactly.
you can still put it in the shell of something, and it still have that same appeal to it.
I think it's also like taking the mouse and clicking on icons on your desktop, and then like all
Oh,
the ROMs are in a folder you got to expand. It feels like you're, I don't know.
yo, that helped me out back in the day, though. Let me tell you, back when there was a
Oh,
substitute
absolutely.
teacher in the
That's all
science
we
class.
had.
When there's a
That's
substitute
all we
teacher in the
had.
science class, go head up the computer in the back, run ZSNES,
Right?
Right?
play some Super Mario World.
See,
Nesticle.
we
Yeah, Nesticle.
Nestopia was another one.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, we did that in high school where we're sitting there in computer class, and me and like two other buddies are passing around a 3.5 floppy that has a Game Boy emulator and Pokemon Green on it, and we're just sitting there playing through the game, and everybody's looking around, looking at us like, "You guys can read Japanese," and we're just like, "What? Oh yeah, we can." I mean, it's pretty much the same layout as the American version, so we're just playing through the game, not even giving a shit about what we're supposed to learn. Oh yeah. Freak of Four's got a chat or a question here for the Pi gods out there. What happens if you own a Pi and have not played it in a while and forget how to operate the thing because the button's programmed by somebody else?
I
I
think there's a configuration file that you would have to go in and delete, right?
So how about this for a hypothetical question to kind of wrap everything up we've been talking about? Would we dream of an all-in-one system for everything one day? Or do we like our separate consoles, our separate form factor, our separate controllers for each one? What we want, with the Series X being as fucking powerful as it is, like being a version of that in the future that can maybe run everything, even if it was with emulators, an all-in-one system, would that appeal to you guys?
Um, I, if they could make like an all-in-one console that we're able to play our cartridges fun, I think it'd be something worth looking forward to. But I don't know, with like each console having its own controller, and I don't know, it just depends uh on your type of gaming. If you like to game on, you know, like if you want to play on an original console, you have that option if it's part of your collection. If you don't mind playing everything all in one like a pie,
Well, and I asked that too because a lot of people
yeah,
are modding those Series S to handle a lot of fucking systems, even PS2, even Wii games that can play. I mean, not perfectly yet. They're not
game,
there yet, but they're taking
yeah.
those Series S and doing a lot of systems with just one console.
mean, are we talking about something that would accommodate every possible system format out there? I mean, that
It kind of almost does, Zombie. It's crazy. Like you can get it to run everything up to PS2, Wii. It's not the full library is not there yet. True, complete compatibility. But I'm just saying, like, say we go 5-10 years on, that may be doable.
I mean, that'd have to be one hell of a console size to be able to accommodate slots for just about every system and format.
Oh no, I'm saying just to run them all through emulation.
Oh, I see. Okay, I thought you were talking about housing like this big ass master control system where it's got like every Atari
That's what I
slot,
thought too.
every Nintendo slot. Like, you know, I'm already looking at my gamer wall, going, well, this would all have to be smashed out and put that big ass system in there. You know, because I would imagine you'd have to have the space for the console parts unless they can find a way to go back, revisit that tech, improve it, and then condense it at the same time.
Yeah, because like the people that I've seen make a video on the Series S, which is an all digital Xbox, they are showing it running PS2 games through an emulator. They're showing it running Wii games. They're showing it, so it's getting you farther than a Pi 4 would get you. It's getting you to like 2 console generations ago, you know, but that's still a lot of coverage
Right.
for one box, you know.
Ryan, can the Xbox run the Sega Saturn pretty well, or is that still in development that you know
I
of?
think you can run it better than the Pi 4 because it's way more powerful system, of course. You know, a Series S that can do 4K gaming, so it's got to have the CPU power.
How is it that
Chris James said he had the GameCube running on the Series S.
how is it that these modded consoles and retro Pis can handle arcade emulation but not Sega Saturn? I mean, granted, Sega Saturn had the capability of arcade boards, which is why they have some of the best arcade to home port conversions out there. But
It is very weird.
why
I don't know.
is it
Maybe Chris did that.
It's, I believe it's because of the architecture of the
Yeah.
Saturn, where it like ran off of 2 chips. So it's
You're
weird.
you're exactly right.
It's very odd.
And I mean,
It's
and
an
that's why
odd design.
that's why developers had trouble doing it in the first place on the original hardware.
Yeah, just like the PS3.
Yep. And it really wasn't until the end of the life of the PS3 that they got the hang of it.
Yeah, that's correct.
Because I mean, for as much as, and I'm recalling a time period before, when I was over here, probably one of the few praising the Sega Saturn for what it was capable of doing, and I remember going through that whole debate with Megadan about why he should consider trying a Dreamcast, why he should consider trying a Sega Saturn. I get it, he's not into fighting games, and those consoles kind of geared towards, you know, the fighting game scene. But when you compare what the Sega Saturn could pull off graphic wise and gameplay wise, it fascinates me that for a system that got so heavily dumped on and, you know, is almost as obscure as some of the older consoles even before it, it has some of the most impressive technology. And that's why I find it so interesting that it can't be emulated. And whether that was a designer choice or not, I don't know. I just find it odd that, you know, we can sit here and emulate crappy ass games like Tattoo Assassins, which Ryan does on his live streams from time to time. But we can't emulate X-Men Children of the Atom. You know? Or X-Men versus Street Fighter, which the Saturn has like the best port of.
It's not so much like because MAME will run those, by the way, perfect on the Pi. What you know what one of the ones that struggles with Panzer Dragoon. Something about the flying in that. I don't know if you know that game in particular. It can't get that. That game's so fucked up the way it runs that. And what it'll do is it'll run other games but just too slow. So like a Panzer Dragoon, it'll run that game completely broken. It won't even display it right visually. Whereas other games, like there's a Final Fighter on the Saturn.
Yep.
It runs it too slow. It can't, and I don't know why. It like visually it looks like it should be able to run it perfect. But why is there still? It's like other questions like why is there still problems with running fucking Killer Instinct? Like what the fuck?
Yep.
You know, there's some games that are weird like that. They just don't want to run.
I wonder if somewhere in the back of these developers' minds they anticipated this is where the tech was gonna go, so they put in these fail safes to be like, nope, you can't emulate my shit. Can't steal it.
I mean, from what I read in the Console Wars book about Kalinske at Sega, they didn't even want to do a 32X or a Saturn. They wanted to go from Genesis to Dreamcast. From what I thought,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't want all those systems in between. It's Sega of Japan that forced them to. They thought they were oversaturating the market with too many consoles. Kalinske did. That they
Well,
had it. That's the takeaway I took from the book.
in many ways they were, because instead of just waiting and improving upon the technology every chance they had to push out a console. They should have just took their time with a lot of these and really
Yeah.
made the next gen consoles just pop in comparison. Because graphically, when you look at those systems, some of the games are very impressive, and had they spaced them out, you would have had a much more improved transition from system to system, rather than just this mess of, you know, well, I have a Genesis, so why should I jump to 32X? Okay, I got the 32X. Why should I jump to Sega Saturn? Why should I jump to the Dreamcast? It's not a natural progression, it's a rushed progression.
Yep.
And then you add to it the mixture of bad advertising and marketing that people were just done. I think gamers were reaching that point where they were picking up on it all and just saying, "Okay, this is just way too much." You know?
Oh, I can pick up a PS1, N64. Thank you very much, Sega, but I'm done here.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, I'm one of the few out there that skipped the N64 in favor of the PlayStation, which was odd for me
Oh,
to
I did
do
too.
because I was such a hardcore Nintendo kid. Um, but Dreamcast won me back because I thought that was way more impressive looking gameplay wise and tech wise, that I started going between PlayStation and Dreamcast until PS2 came out.
And even the PS2, a lot of the Dreamcast games look better than the PS2.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a fact.
I would argue that. I think my biggest complaint with the Dreamcast was the library. They focused just way too much on sports and fighters.
Oh, and old reliable
Mm-hmm. I mean,
games that were recycled, like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, for instance.
right. But I would definitely argue consoles to own if possible, or in this case, emulate. Can't go wrong, really.
Or simulate.
Simulate, there you go. Not emulate, simulate. All right. Well, we're nearing the 2-hour mark, gents. Any final thoughts? Any closing arguments?
I want to give Hector a chance while I throw out his channel again and definitely check him out. Can you go through kind of just what you give an overview of what you do on your channel, Hector, just for the people that aren't familiar? And definitely click on that link, guys, in chat, our viewers here, if you want to give an overview.
Yeah, no problem. So on my channel, I mostly stream from retro to modern. Sometimes I'll mix in like a like a, I'll mix in like a small mod or pickups, or recent pickups. Like I'll squeeze it into like a stream before I start streaming the actual game content. I've also started producing my pickups videos for Video Games Monthly, which is a subscription service, which I recommend for people who want to focus in on building their collection for like a recent retro console that they've discovered or gotten into. But yeah, I cover a lot of gaming content, and I plan to pump out more in the future. But you know, I do it for the love, baby. I don't do this for the money.
Yeah, and you've also been a contributing member of our part again of the retro community when it comes to modding, and become very supportive, very vocal of a lot of our channels. So very much appreciate that.
Yeah, I expect the same for myself though. If I'm doing anything stupid or silly, call me out on it, because we all could use some correction.
Us call you out on it? No.
If my mic ain't loud enough, please let me know.
Hector streams are awesome. I haven't made as many as I would like, but the ones I have been in, always a great time.
Yeah, definitely. Be sure to check out his channel, guys, if you haven't done so already. You know how I put it. Do yourselves a favor. Support another great member of the community. Be sure to like, comment, show that same support. We're all about building each other's channels here. So if you haven't done so, click on the link in the chat. Also, you'll find a link to his channel in the description of tonight's episode. So there's no reason why you can't check it out. That's right, Zombie's calling you out. Don't be lazy. That's not how we roll here. So
Yeah, I think this was a fun topic. I think it was even a little bit overwhelming to feel like we could do it justice, because there's so much to talk about, and we even got into the ethical parts, as BFG would say, maybe not moral but ethical parts. I think it was a lot to talk about, and there was a lot of technical stuff to talk about. So I'm glad we could get through it, and I really think we did actually do it justice.
Yeah, and also this kind of segues into a topic that unfortunately we've had to reschedule, but the concept of emulation, emulating everything that's fully accessible. So if we want to revisit this some more and put a little bit more emphasis on that, that is something that we can work out in due time. Unfortunately, that was supposed to be the topic before I came down with pneumonia, but now that I'm back on the saddle, I'll be sure to at some point put that topic back up in the poll for you guys to vote on. But we also have a lot of other great topics available, so keep those votes coming, guys. If a podcast topic doesn't win one week, chances are it can win another. So, and keep those submissions coming in the Discord, because we really love to hear what your guys' thoughts are. And more than likely, if it's a topic that you're passionate about, you might be here in the driver's seat with us. So yeah, just keep up those good ideas.
Yeah, and just one more thing from my end here. I just want to thank you guys for having me as a participant in your lovely podcast, and I look forward to seeing what topics get discussed in this realm in the future. That emulation topic, it's a handful, and I can't wait till it gets covered. But you guys have been fantastic, and I hope you guys keep this thing going. All right.
Well, you've been an
Thank
awesome
you.
guest, so thank
Happy
you
to
very
have
much
you.
for joining us. Absolutely.
My pleasure.
All right,
I'd like to put Edwin on that. I'd like to put Edwin on that emulation one. He's somebody that's really gotten me into he got me into the image scene through Arcade Punks and the Pi emulation. I think Ed wouldn't be perfect for that. It'd be a great choice. So, yeah, man. Hector, it's been a pleasure, man, having you on. You're a great guest.
Yep, I would
Thank
definitely
you, man.
agree. Our bearded
You guys have
Kirby.
you guys have been awesome hosts. Let me tell you.
All right, well that about
Now,
wraps
what's the
up.
restroom?
Wait, you mean you're not using a bottle?
Oh boy.
I don't get to leave this chair. What the hell? I'm hardwired into it.
Yeah, it's like that South Park episode where they're all into World of Warcraft.
Right? I got my 50 Red Bull cans and I'm just slouching in my chair clicking. All right. Well, thanks a lot, you guys. This has been a very fun episode. Glad we had such an interactive chat yet again. You guys, your comments, your questions, all of it's good stuff. And I can't wait to see what next week's episode's gonna be. I know this one particularly was another close race. A lot of people were telling me, I don't know what to vote for. You know, there's just too many good choices. And
Yeah, I'll be honest. I voted for Moses because I want to hear about that Mandela effect.
Yeah, he actually gave us some ideas in Discord about where he was gonna take that. So, you know, I'm not giving up on that. I'm gonna repost a lot of these topics, and we've got some new ones already on Discord. So yeah, just keep those votes coming, everybody. You know, we always look forward
Never
to what
give
that
up.
one is. Yeah, exactly. All right, gents. Well, anybody have any closing statements before we sign off for tonight? Any final
It
thoughts?
don't matter how you game this game.
Just give it a try. If you have a Wii, do it. You won't regret it.
Yeah. Gaming is gaming. Whether you emulate it, you mod it, you ever drive it, you physical media it. Gaming is gaming.
Even if you play it on a calculator, it's gaming, baby.
Oh, I miss playing Mega Man on my TI 83 Plus. Are you kidding me?
Hey, that was a mod. That was a console mod.
Super Punch Out, Drug War. Man, those are classics. All right, everybody. Well, thanks again for tuning in. Look forward to next week's episode. Be sure to vote once the polls are open. And as always, we've got the after party in my Discord as soon as we sign off here. So,
Whoop, whoop.
until next episode, I am your patient zero, Zombie JLT1.
I am Richard Ryan.
And I'm Chris from Big Family Gaming.
And our special guest.
Hector the Game Collector.
Love it.
Yeah, love it. Signing off for now. We will catch you all later. You all have a good night, and as always, enjoy that ending.
Beep, whoop.
You deserve it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.